Namaskaram. In the last 3 weeks, a lot of people have been talking about Piyush Pandey. There's one common thing that we found in all their narrations, which is it's only when a star vanishes from your life, do you understand how important that star was. Do you understand how much of light it was shedding on you, how much that star influenced you, and how much that person taught you without actually teaching you. And probably that is also the reason why we are gathered here. And just to know, ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന എത്ര പേര് പീയൂഷ് പാണ്ഡെ നേരിട്ട് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്? ഒന്ന് കൈവെക്കാം. 5 or 6 people. എത്ര പേര് സംസാരിക്കുകയും ഇടപെടുകയും ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്? 3 പേര്. So that is a magic of the person. We are all here to celebrate the life and the work of someone that has been a silent influence in our lives across some 30-40 years. And there's no better person to do it with than Sneha. Kochi Air Club, Varmaya തട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടു പോയെന്നാണ് ഞാൻ അറിയുന്നത്.
ഞാൻ സെക്കൻഡ് ഇൻ ലൈൻ ആണ്.
അപ്പോ why I felt Sneha is perhaps I don't want to cause unnecessary friction, but a better person to do this is because in fact I was asked to formally introduce her, even though she needs no introduction. So the best way I can introduce her is to say that she's one of the most genuine, loving, caring person that I have come across. And I think that is, for me, that is saying a lot. And the mother of 3 wonderful children, and her husband, as was said earlier, is Prakash Varma, whom you all know, who is very strangely, fondly called George Sir now. And from a career point of view, Sneha started with the iconic Mahesh Matai in Highlight Films, moved on to Trends ad films, and as a director, and then went on to work with O&M, and where she was a colleague of Piyush Pandey, which is one reason why I said she's a better person to have here with us, because she was very close to him professionally, she was very close to his family, and after starting Nirvana, co-founding Nirvana Films with Prakash Varma, her husband Prakash Varma, in 2001, I think next January you will be 25 years old.
Yeah.
Nirvana will be 25 years old. They've done some of the best iconic films for Piyush across the last 20-25 years. So on behalf of the ad club of Trivandrum, I once again am delighted to welcome you to Trivandrum.
Thank you.
ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ ഒരു കോൺവെർസേഷൻ അങ്ങനെ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് പ്ലാൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. ഒരു Q&A കാര്യമൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പം എപ്പോൾ വേണമെങ്കിലും ആർക്കും കൈ പൊക്കാം, ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കാം. ഇഫ് യു ഹാവ് എ റെലവൻറ്റ് സ്റ്റോറി ഓർ എൻ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് that you would like to share briefly, please feel free to do that as we go along. Sneha, one thing that I have always...
അല്ല, ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് താങ്ക് യു ഫോർ ദി ഇൻട്രഡക്ഷൻ, താങ്ക് യു ഫോർ ദി ഇൻവൈറ്റ്. There are many people in this world who I would consider worthy of doing this today, but I also consider it a huge honor that I have this opportunity and what he stood for. So thank you very much. I don't take these things lightly, because somewhere I think the universe conspires in a way that if I was called today here to be amongst you and to talk about his life, there must be something that I have done right. So really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Sneha, the one thing that has struck me with all the work that you've done, especially for Piyush, is that is in fact, Piyush always reminds me of one of my favorite theories, which is roundedness. Piyush is like an urula, because you have a bit of rice and sambar and avial and thoran and pickle and the whole thing into one perfect urala, and it's an explosion of taste in your mouth. So he is a guy who engaged with life from whatever little I know of him. He is a person who observed, who listened, who understood the pulse of the common man. And do you think that is why he was able to speak consistently to the heart? Because it's something that I find lacking in a large cross-section of advertising today, because everyone seems very keen on talking to the head rather than the heart.
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question right there. But I think, so let me start by telling you what my sort of experience with Piyush was. I was a young trainee at Ogilvy when I first sort of heard of this name, and even then he was sort of legendary already. So I was working not at Ogilvy yet, but I was working with a production house called Highlight Films with Mahesh Madhai as my boss and Srila Chatterjee. And this was a film for Cadbury's Perk that we were doing. And the Cadbury film with the girl running on the field had already been done.
Okay.
So we were doing a film for Cadbury Perk. It was a launch with Rageshwari in the film. And it was the morning of that shoot. We were at Ballad Estate in Bombay. I was a trainee. I was in charge of this girl, Rageshwari, and her costumes, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, so he comes into the shoot with Sonal Dabral, one of his senior writers. It was his script. And my first memory of Piyush is the fact that he could laugh really loud. And when I say loud, he's laughing at something that he's about to say. So he hasn't even cracked the joke, but he's already started laughing because in his head he's already sort of the punchline and everything is played out. So he laughs and then no one has a choice but to laugh along. So this was Piyush. He really has this larger than life persona. You cannot miss this man as he walks into a space because that is who he was. He brought a lot of mirth and joy and childishness and jokes and fun. And the thing is, he never took himself seriously. So I think part of the intrigue with this man was like, what is he about? So I think watching him from afar at that point, you had no choice but to get taken in by his aura. And he made the most difficult things seem very simple. So, of course, post that, I worked at Ogilvy and I was a film executive. Once again, watching him from afar, you know, every time Piyush would come to the Bangalore office, we would sort of, there's a whole palpable excitement. Piyush is coming, Piyush is coming. It's like this whole echo in the corridors, and when he arrives, he would behave like he was everyone's buddy, right? So that's I mean, we'll talk at length about who he was as a person, but this is my experience of watching him from sort of like a few meters away. And he would make eye contact with everybody. That was a special gift. He sort of scanned the room, he'll observe who's where, and he'll talk he would make you feel like he's talking to you. And therefore, you couldn't look away from him. That was a quality he had. And he was irreverent. So, and a lot of his jokes and his punchlines were in Hindi, so a lot of them would go over our heads. But he would make it a point, if you wanted to know what it was, he would translate it for you. So yeah, so then from there, I think I may have interacted with him a couple of times. But once we started Nirvana in 2001, Varma and I remember, actually, I think fell in love with Varma because he narrated an idea for Cadbury's to me that I thought was a damn good idea for a film. And I didn't think of him as a person who could sort of come up with this idea, and I suddenly thought, okay, not bad, you have something in you. And please remember, this is like a good 25, 30 years ago. So I remember telling him, I said, if you were a creative at Ogilvy and we presented this idea to Piyush, maybe he would have bought it. And he said, why don't we do it? I said, no, I'm not sure we'll get a window of opportunity to do that. Anyways, luck would have it. we kept waiting for the right film because we felt that unless we have the right film, we are not going to go and pitch ourselves to Ogilvy as an agency. I was very particular because I was ex-Ogilvy that we needed a really good film to go show our work. And that didn't happen for a while until we got a call once from Mahesh and Rajiv, who were the creators on the Hutch campaign. And it was a launch for Hutch in India. And we were called to do this film because they had seen something that we had done for Lakme. So we did the film and we thought Piyush would come to the shoot, but he didn't. And then we finished the film, and at the presentation he was there. This is large conference room with this big table with Harit Nagpal, who was then the head of Vodafone, Hutch those days, and there was Piyush there. And it was the first time he was watching this film, and he watched the Hutch Boy Dog film. He watched it once, he watched it twice, he watched it thrice. And then this larger-than-life man actually teared up and started to cry. And all of us were like, okay, what is this reaction? And then he said, who made it? And Varma and I were standing at the back somewhere. He walked up to us and he gave Varma this huge smooch. And you should hear Varma tell that story because he says, all I remember was this brush-like mush in my face. But he was so moved by that film, and he hugged all of us on the team, Mahesh, Rajiv, Varma, me, and he was just ecstatic. And he turned around and told Harit, the client, he said, Iska koi bhi cut down nahi karega, 60 seconds will go on air. And that's what they ran. And that film, of course, as we all know, was a very, very popular film. It launched that brand, and then we went on to do some incredible work for Vodafone as a brand. But Piyush was a great captain. So Rajiv tells me that the night before we were shooting the Hutch Boy Dog film, Mahesh and Rajiv were at Goa, I think, for some Creative Council meeting. And they told him that, we're shooting a film tomorrow for Piyush, would you like to hear the concept? And he said, no, don't tell me, because if you tell me, I'll add my stuff onto it. You guys go shoot it and come and present it later. So he always gave his team, the freedom and the trust to be able to go out and play their game. And if it was good, of course, he supported you. And he would spot us in the room and he would say, this is your work, come up and own it. And he always introduced us to his clients, to his friends, with so much pride, like we were, part of his inner circle. Of course, over the years, we got to know him very, very closely. We did a whole lot of campaigns over the last 2 decades with him. And we celebrated his 70th together. We were part of his inner circle. So we do consider ourselves to be extremely blessed. But I think I've drifted hugely from your question.
Perfectly all right.
But yeah, I think he drew a lot of strength from many things, and we'll go into that. And one was family. Yeah.
So I've heard that he's always chose to work with the best. Like, say, for example, initially his films were done by the highlight, Mahesh Matai.
Yeah.
And then it was done by Prasoon, his brother.
Yeah.
And I remember that there's a common friend, Ramesh Ramanathan, who decided that he will have the audacity to ask him, why are all your films done by your brother? Why do you give all your films to your brother? And he said, to kya, tere bhai ko do? So and at that point, Prasoon was a master craftsman in what he was doing.
He still is.
Yeah. And then he moved from his brother largely to Nirvana, where he was working with Varma and you.
Yes.
So, is this something that he followed across? Because I've heard stories about how he finds people and how he, works with them to bring out the best in them.
Yeah. So Piyush, actually, if you look, if you've seen any of his stuff, he draws a lot from cricket. He was a cricket player. He was a Ranji player, and he believes that cricket is a sort of unifier for a country like India, and it is almost like a religion, and we know that to be true. So for him, a lot of his life and the analogies that he drew was from cricket. So in that sense, yes, it's not a solo sport. You need a team, and so he believed in the strength of his teammates. And it didn't matter what batting order, it didn't matter whether you were, a bowler or a batsman or a wicketkeeper or whatever it is. You play to your abilities, and you play the best. You put your best game forward, and you win as a country, or you win as a team, or you win as Ogilvy. So for him, it was always about teamwork. And to that end, yes, who you collaborate with makes all the difference, because it's impossible as a leader for you to be present in everything. But if you choose wisely, and if you play on the front foot like he did and encouraged his teammates to do, you're surely going to, of course, he always said that there will be a few wins and there will be a few losses, but you learn from the losses. In fact, Ogilvy had this sort of tenet that David Ogilvy is the one who spoke about, and he had this, those Russian dolls. You open one doll and you put the other and the other, and there are multiple dolls in that. So it was something that Ogilvy used to give out in those days to employees. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think that the thought was that you should always hire people who are bigger than you, who know more than you, because you don't want to build a company of dwarfs, you want to build a company of giants. And you surround yourself with people who know more, because you learn off each other, you riff off each other, and that's the one way to create good work. So I think that is something that he held dearly. He's spoken about that as well, how it's very important to collaborate with the right people, because if you consider that you are the last word on something, you are unlikely to put out good work. So he had that sort of ability to choose people, spot good talent, pull them up front, and give them, full trust and say, go with it, I support you. And I think a lot of us, in fact, us specifically, I think, the kind of work we have done over the last 2 decades with Ogilvy, we know that they spotted talent and they pulled us up. They gave us the opportunity to prove ourselves. We did. And when trust comes your way, you know that you can't let someone down. So you put your best effort, and that's how good work happens.
Let's take a quick look at one of the showreels that you've put together of the first set of films that.
Oh yeah, so this one is a film that you'll enjoy watching. So Piyush and his brother, Piyush Pandey, who runs a film production company called Cowboys Films, won the biggest honor that an advertising person can win. They won it together. It was called The Lion of St. Mark at Cannes. So this was a film that was made at that time for him.
Hello, Mr. Cleo. Why are you giving over to Piyush Pandey? What lifetime? Why are you giving over to Piyush? Piyush? Why about him? Acha? You are very funny. All nonsense. Piyush is not business. Piyush Pandey not good. Why always compromise? All nonsense. Actually, is all from my life. That is my award. This patient, all these ideas come from us. Idea come from me. Why give a award to him? He is not that. I am not that. What is idea come from my idea? This idea is mine. Idea me. Your idea? My idea is my brain. I am giving the idea to him. Idea is mine. All idea is me. I am the idea. All this idea is mine. My idea, my award, my idea, my award. Idea is mera. What do you mean? This is my idea. I am idea. Your idea. My idea. All idea is mine. My idea. It is my idea. You guys are just... Stop this statement. Piyush. My award to him.
So this, sorry, switch on the light. He didn't care about this image that everybody had of him. If he realized all of us were sitting and talking about him, he would have laughed and said, "Ghar jao." kuch kaam karo. He really didn't take himself so seriously. I think what happens with most people is that we start to take ourselves too seriously and we suck the fun out of life. And Piyush didn't give a damn. He used lots of bad language. He, said all kinds of things to all kinds of people. His jokes were not very savory. In today's day and age, we would scorn because how can you speak like that? We're too tight upper-lipped. He couldn't give a shit. So that was who he was. He was a fun guy. And I think part of that is what made advertising what it was in the time that we were growing up. We really had fun. People in office in Ogilvy were full of laughter, were full of joy, were full of pulling pranks on each other. No one, we really couldn't, it's like he would select people at the workplace who were dropouts, who were the outliers in society, the guys who didn't pass their engineering exams, the guys whose parents were, someone who failed in love. Those were the guys he picked. It was like a circus. We were the clowns that he handpicked, and he would give you the freedom to be yourself. And he figured that if you really love doing what you're doing, you should be given a free rein.
In fact, this is a dangerous thing to say in Kerala. I think he is credited with being the only advertising guy who managed to start a bar in the agency.
Yes, Piyush was very fond of his drinks, and many a drunken night have produced some phenomenal advertising. So yeah.
Yeah. So shall we take a look at the films that you put together, the first set of films?
Yeah, sure.
इसी को तुम अखबार में छुप छुप कर देख रही थी ना?
हाँ, क्यों?
देखो, तुम्हें दिया।
पागल तो नहीं हो गया? कितने की है?
अरे कुछ भी नहीं।
नहीं। लौटा।
अब बहुत शुभ दिन है, वो वैलेंटाइंस डे। इसलिए जो लोग प्यार करते हैं ना, एक दूसरे को कुछ न कुछ देते हैं।
अब इस उम्र में कहाँ पहनूंगी हीरा?
अरे हीरे को क्या पता तुम्हारी उम्र?
SBI लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के लाइफ लॉन्ग पेंशन्स, ताकि प्यार के बीच पैसों की कमी ना आए।
I've also heard stories about how he made an effort to keep in touch with the parents of people who worked with him. Could you talk to us? Because I think you told me a very interesting story. Maybe you could share that.
Yeah. So, Piyush was a complete family man. He was one of 8 siblings, I think 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And he had a great sort of ability to connect with either very young children and very old people. And he was great with striking conversations and stuff. So there's a story about Rajesh, who is now the head of Ogilvy in Bombay. And Rajesh was saying at the memorial actually that he is an engineering dropout, I think. And, from his Trivandrum family, no one considered him to be of any worth, because how can you drop out of engineering and how can you get into advertising? That's like such a fringe job to have. And so he was literally sort of considered worthless. And apparently 1 or 2 years down the line of him being in Ogilvy, so Piyush has this habit of calling everyone at 6:30 in the morning. Between 6 and 8 is when he's busiest. He's calling people, he's cracked a campaign, he's waking you up, he's, a lot of people have that 6:30 morning call from Piyush. So Rajesh is called once, his father's sitting in the morning and reading the newspaper, and some campaign had to be cracked, and Piyush is saying something on the other line. Rajesh is saying, yes Piyush, yes Piyush, yes Piyush. So after he says, हाँ Piyush, and he puts the phone down, and his father looks at him and says, who's that? Piyush Pandey? So Rajesh says, yeah, it's Piyush Pandey. So he says, okay. And the next thing you know, all of Rajesh's cousins and everyone says, "Day, Appa phone pannaru. Piyush Pandey is calling you apparently." So that means he thinks that you become somebody at Ogilvy, not bad. So now he thinks that Paya has found a decent job if Piyush Pandey is calling him. So then Rajesh narrates the story to Piyush and says, "My dad now finally thinks that I'm, presentable and I have a decent job." So Piyush says, "Acha, phone lagao." And then he calls his father and Piyush speaks to me. He says, "Sir, I work with Rajesh. Rajesh, a fantastic guy. And Ogilvy as a network, we can't do a thing unless he's there." And he praised him to the high heavens. And his father was like, "Wow." But the story doesn't end there, because every year Piyush remembers and he tells Rajesh, "Acha, phone lagao." And he used to speak to Rajesh's dad. So this is one story, but there are many such. Even when he calls me, he'll say, "Hi Sneha, how's Amma? How are the kids?" And this is something he did with everybody. So he had a kind of humanity which was genuine. He will remember things. I have friends who tell me that if they've met him and they say, "Piyush, I'm not drinking today because I have a blood test tomorrow in the morning," he'll say, "What rubbish. Blood test is not going to pick up your alcohol levels." So they say, no, and then he's gone. Then that evening is over. In 2 days' time, he will call and he'll say, "So, what have the results said? How was the blood test?" He is the worldwide CEO of Ogilvy, and he doesn't need to do this. No one needs to do this. He doesn't need to remember that. But this is who he was. He would connect with everybody at a level where, and there was nothing put on about it. He was genuinely connecting with every human. He would speak to security guards. He would speak to people in the lift. He had a connection with everyone. So everyone has a personal Piyush story. It almost feels like, how did he manage to do that? That was his speciality. And if you look at all his films, you'll realize that a lot of his ideas were drawn from the people he met in everyday life. He didn't go looking for ideas in computers. He actually interacted with people, and I think all of his ideas were drawn from real life human stories. Yeah.
Let's continue.
चेहरा प्यार से बोले, Pond's moisturizing cold cream.
Continue.
Based on all political issues. So, today we'll have a political discussion on rural development bill. Those on my left will speak in favor of the motion, and those on my right will speak against it. And I want proper parliamentary behavior. So let's start.
Thank you, Professor. Since 1960, they are trying to pass the bill for the rural development. And its structure.
The magic of India, Indian Railways.
शर्मा की दुल्हन जो ब्याह के आई, संग टू सीटर सोफा ले आई। पड़ गओ नाम शर्मा इनका सोफा, हाय शर्मा इनका सोफा। शर्मा इन बहन का ब्याह कराइन, सोफा पे नवा कपड़ा चढ़ाइन। बन गओ वो मिसरा इनका सोफा, हाय मिसरा इनका सोफा। कलेक्टर बनेलू, सोफा पे रंजीन कपड़ा चढ़ेलू। बनको कलेक्टर इनका सोफा, हाय कलेक्टर इनका सोफा। कलेक्टर की बिटिया लव मैरिज करेली, सोफा पे बंगाली किरमिट चढ़ेली। बन गओ वो बंगालन का सोफा, हाय बंगालन का सोफा। बड़ा घर का प्यार निपटाओ, सोफा साठ का होने को आओ। देखी गंगा पार की शादी, देखी देश के बाहर की शादी। अब कोई ब्याह कराए या न कराए, हाय पर सोफा बनाए तो दिल से बनाए।
Yeah, I mean, this last Cadbury's is a remake of the original one, which we have also, we can show you. But yeah, I mean, look at the work that he's done for Pidilite. I mean, he always says that, such a small brand, nobody knew about it, they had come, but he saw an opportunity in building that. And look what work they've done over the last 40 years. I mean, this incredible storytelling. There's that M-Seal film, I don't know if you remember seeing it, with the man on his deathbed and his family is there and they're getting him to sign off on and the water drips from the top. And it's supposed, as per Piyush's script, the water was supposed to drop on the signature. But there was a young guy in Ogilvy who said, Piyush, I have an idea. The water should drop on the number 1. So the only thing left is the zeros. And Piyush said, brilliant, that's a master stroke. And he took that, and he was such a team player, he saw the value of a good idea. He, he was always giving like that. So yeah, incredible amount of work. And Cadbury's, Fevicol, these are brands that were built, Asian Paints, that were built on some incredible ideas, incredible lines. And he used to write so effortlessly that you would think it's the easiest thing to do, but it doesn't, it's not something that, how do I say this? I think a lot of what he finally put out was a cumulative effect of everything he was as a person, what he observed, how he behaved, the interactions he had, his sort of joie de vivre, his desire to live life fully, his big laugh, his big mustache, his his jokes, what he saw. So I think everything came out in literature or literary form, but he was so informed by life itself. Yeah.
In fact, that sofa commercial was the lyric
Masterstroke.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Piyush, if you were here, would have said 1 minute of silence. What are you saying? You should be laughing.
So on the few films that he personally wrote, he would always have a very strong idea, but he never dictated what we should do short-wise or what the structure of the film was. He was someone who believed that he would give you the broad strokes, or he would write the lyrics of a song. But he never told you that this is how you have to structure your film. This is the beginning, middle, end. He never had, he trusted Varma enough to say that he always referred to you as partner. And he would say, partner, you do whatever I'm coming to you because I trust you to do. So he always made it your problem. He will only give you the larger sort of room. Which is a very rare thing actually, because now I find that clients are not only, he will evaluate from all angles. He's not looking at it as I am Ogilvy and therefore I have to push bad work. He is always on his client's side. He is always thinking from the point of view of, is the customer ready to accept this piece of communication? So he has a 360 perspective on most things, and he was a true leader because it was always from the point of view of what is the right thing to do in this situation. Should we wait? Should we not push this out? Should we go back, reshoot if we have to? So he always evaluated everything from a 360 angle. It was never an emotional reaction. It was always a very, his work was emotional and he was emotional about his work, but he always thought on behalf of what the brand needs to do at that point. So he had a very, very special ability to be not only a creative person, but also he had very sharp business acumen. He was able to tell the pulse of a piece of work and whether or not it would work, because I think that's what experience brings. When you worked on campaigns for the kind of time that he spent in advertising, he really knew when something had its heart in the right place. There was one film we did for Indian Steel Alliance. I don't know if I've told you the story. A beautiful film for a brand like steel, where many conglomerates in steel were coming together. So it was it was Mittals and it was Tata Steel, all of them coming together. And it was a very sweet, small film. Anyway, so he was blown by that film, and we presented it again at this big conference. These conference halls are very intimidating sometimes, with 15 people sitting there and all very, very serious people in tie and suits. And Piyush says, okay, I love what I'm going to show you, so I'm going to show you this film. And he played the film 3 times and everyone sat there in silence and nobody said anything. So it felt like someone died, but a bad joke. Anyway, but so he said, what's up? Any reaction? And nobody said anything. And he said, and then somebody piped up in the room and said, I'm not sure if it's, steel and whether this is connecting emotionally. So Piyush, being Piyush, he got up and he said, I think you should get your heart checked. I'm not sure if your heart is in the right place. And he walked off and he told his team, he said, I don't think these guys deserve this film. Find another client, let's sell it to them. So he was a rebel, he was a naughty kid. He would back answer if he needed to, but he also had the humility to come back and say sorry if it required that. But he took that liberty. Clients would call him back and say, no, sorry Piyush, we should have not said that, please, let's go back and run the campaign. So he built trust with people. He had the liberty to throw a tantrum. He was the spoiled child. He was the naughty child. He was also the father. There's a story which, again, I must share. We were in Ogilvy and we were having this party, an Ogilvy party, and everybody was there and everyone was a few drinks down and having a gala time. And there was one of these young boys in advertising those days who had a drink too many, and he had completely lost control of what he was doing. And someone went around and told Piyush, ये इतना पिया कि अभी सबको काट रहा है. So काट रहा है मतलब क्या? So Piyush, so he said, no, he's really drunk. So Piyush went to him, and this guy, അവന് സ്നേഹം മൂത്തിട്ട് അവൻ പീയൂഷിനെ കയറി കടിച്ചു. അവൻ പീയൂഷ് ആരോടോ പറഞ്ഞു, ഇവൻ കൈവിട്ട് പോയിരിക്കുകയാണ്, പ്ലീസ് ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഹിം ഹോം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് someone took him home and left him at home and whatever. So അടുത്ത ദിവസം the buzz in offices, അവൻ്റെ ജോലി പോയി. ഇനിയിപ്പം he is not going to come back to Ogilvy. കഴിഞ്ഞു, അവൻ്റെ കഥ കഴിഞ്ഞു. So he comes back the next day and he is summoned to Piyush's office, and everybody says, "Gaya iska, matlab he's not coming back." And Piyush called him and said, "Kya hua tha kal?" So even oru ormilla anda sambandham. He has no recollection of that evening. So he said, "Tune mere ko kaata?" So he said, Piyush, main kyun kaatunga?" He said, "Listen, dude, you didn't realize what you did yesterday, but you were biting people at the party." So he turned around and he said, "I'm really sorry, Piyush," whatever. So he had a chat with him and he said, you need to be careful about these things. But he never shouted at him or anything. He just gave him a warning and he sort of said, "Be careful, don't do these things. People don't take them well." And sweet enough. But this boy, ever since, and I've known him now for many years. I met him recently at Piyush's memorial, and he said he gave up drinking that day and he never got back to drinking, because he didn't know how to control his drink, and that was a conversation that Piyush had with him. So that's what I was saying. He was ഒരു അച്ഛനും കൂടി ആയിരുന്നു. അതായത് നമ്മളൊരു തെറ്റ് കാണിക്കുമ്പോൾ you can either be ശാസിക്കുമ്പം, as a parent I can tell you, we do sometimes the wrong thing instinctively is to show your power in that situation, that I can say this to you and control this narrative here. And you can scar your children for life. But നമ്മൾ ക്ഷമിക്കുമ്പം അതാണ് ശരിക്കും പവർ. കാരണം ആ സ്നേഹം ഒരിക്കലും ആർക്കും മറക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. സോ എപ്പോഴും you hold him in reverence because he was able to do these things. He was ഒരു ലീഡർ മാത്രമല്ല, ഒരു അച്ഛനും കൂടിയായിരുന്നു. So yeah.
Anyone else who would like to trigger something off? Thanks, Joshi. Anyone else? Anything?
I just want to ask this audience, നമ്മുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ ഇപ്പോഴും ഒരു കുട്ടിത്തമുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടോ? Put your hands up. ഇല്ലേ? Okay. Advertising is still alive എന്നർത്ഥം. Because അതില്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഈ പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടൊരു കാര്യമില്ല. നമ്മൾ കുറച്ച് കുസൃതിയൊക്കെ ആവശ്യമാണ്. ബിക്കോസ് അതർവൈസ് ഇറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ് പോയിന്റ്ലെസ്. നമ്മൾ അധികം സീരിയസ് ആയാൽ we should not be in this profession എന്ന് വിശ്വസിക്കുന്ന ആളാണ് ഞാൻ. കുറച്ച് irreverence is allowed in this profession, I think. And we are in the business of communication, but if you forget to communicate, then what is the point? So I think what he talked about, which is you have all the data points, you have all the information handy, but if you don't talk to somebody and create love for your brand, you've lost the plot. So I think whatever you do, you have to remember to come back to the simple narrative, the narrative that connects, the narrative that, he was the first guy who was India proud in advertising. We were only aping what the West was doing for a very long time. And we thought that was cool, but he made this cool. And he owned where he belonged. He owned the fact that he was from Rajasthan. He understood the music from there, the lay of the land, what the people felt, spoke, who they were. All that was celebrated. And that's what he gave advertising. Indian advertising. He made us sort of recognize that we have a plethora of wealth in our stories. So there was nothing to be ashamed about, that we could go out and own it and show it to the world, and the world recognized that we had some phenomenal stories coming out of this country. And in short spans, we didn't need feature-length films. In 30-second and 60-second ads, we were able to tell our stories so beautifully. So he owned it. Piyush as a person also loved Indian food, and he would be invited all over the world to go to conferences and stuff. But he will always find the one Indian restaurant that serves dal rice because that was his soul food. And so he would go to fancy French conferences and they would be serving him and he'd look at that baguette and he'd say, you can kill somebody with this. How do people eat it? But he always wanted his dal chawal at the end. That was who he was, and he was not ashamed to say it. So everyone knew that about him, and he owned it. So that's what I'm saying. Somewhere we have to understand that who am I and what do I bring to the table? Your authentic voice is a very important one to own. And we often forget that when what we do is so eager to please everybody and try and portray. So all this terminology that you're saying, if you're not able to connect with someone. So ഈ കണക്ഷൻ വരണമെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റിനുള്ള ആൾക്കാരെ മനസ്സിലാക്കണം, അവരുടെ കഥകൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കണം, അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്ന രീതിയിൽ ആ കഥകൾ പറയണം. സോ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് അത് നമ്മളൊരു കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിൽ നോക്കി കുറേ ഡേറ്റ പോയിന്റ്സ് നോക്കിയിട്ട് വരാൻ പോകുന്നില്ല. യു ഹാവ് ടു എഡ്യൂക്കേറ്റ് യുവർ സെൽഫ് ഇൻ ലൈഫ്. ട്രാവൽ ചെയ്യണം, ആൾക്കാരായിട്ട് മിങ്കിൾ ചെയ്യണം, ഫോണിന്ന് തല പൊക്കി യു ഹാവ് ടു ദിസ് ഇസ് തിങ്സ് ദാറ്റ് he said you have to connect with people, you have to talk to them, that's the only way to do to communicate, whether and in any form, whether it's a song, whether it's writing a tagline, whether it's writing a book, whether it's making a film. Any creative expression requires connection with real life, so always go back to that. Sorry, I keep going on a tangent, but yeah. Of course, and I think in his passing, the one thing that he gave us is a sort of reawakening, in a way, for us to look back at the work that he's created and say that, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we losing the plot? What is it about connection that we're missing? Because we operate out of fear 9 out of 10 times. What will this one say? Who will, it's never out of what does my brand need? What should I be doing? Can I consistently push this message out? Can I say it in the most interesting fashion? Can I collaborate with the right people? I mean, we are not asking the right questions, so we will never have the right answers. We're looking for solutions out of fear. And that is always going to give us very, very mediocre work. So I think we have to urge ourselves to ask the right questions. It's better a brand doesn't do any advertising work than do shitty work, because it'll do more damage than good. And also I'm not saying that everything is bad. Of course, there are great pieces of work that people put out, but are they in this for the long run? Do they see the end line not to be here but further down? So you have to look at yourself as someone who's in this for the long haul, and therefore what are you creating? What are you leaving? Like, all of us in this room are working like horses and like dogs, okay, whatever you want to call yourself. But the point is, തിരിഞ്ഞു നോക്കുമ്പം എന്താണ് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന സത്യത്തിൽ? എന്തെങ്കിലും have we created anything of value? വലിയ വലിയ കാര്യങ്ങളല്ല, ചെറിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ തന്നെ, if you think about it. Are we able to push something that we believe in? Can we fight for something that we think needs to go through? ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് ലൈഫിൽ അർത്ഥം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, അല്ലേ? അല്ലെങ്കിൽ what is the point? I don't know. I'm just asking. എനിക്ക് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഉത്തരവൊന്നുമില്ല, പക്ഷെ I'm just saying, ചിലപ്പോൾ തിരിഞ്ഞു നോക്കുമ്പോൾ you should at least something that you are proud of, whether it's your children or grandchildren, you can turn and say, അത് ഞാൻ ചെയ്തതാണെന്ന് പറയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടെങ്കിലും try and do something that is of value.
Nidhi, to add to that, the basics never change, because you're still, what are you doing? You're telling stories. So if you tell a story well, whatever be the platform, whatever be whether it's one-to-one or you're talking to the whole country, I understand your what you started off with, because advertising used to hold the country together almost. Hamara Bajaj and Kal Bhi Aaj Bhi and Ye Zami Hai Asma and all that stuff.
Mile Sur,
Mile Sur Tera Tumhara, all that. It used to hold the country together. I don't know if you're going, if it will take a large thing to go back to that space, but otherwise it's all storytelling. And the basics never change. So I think the problem lies with us in the fact that we don't pursue that kind of simple storytelling that talks to your heart rather than your head.
Yeah, and വലിയ ബ്രാൻഡ് ഒന്നും ആയിരിക്കണമെന്നില്ല.
Yeah.
Can be anybody, like he said, Pidilite ആരും അല്ലായിരുന്നു അവരുടെ അടുത്ത് ആദ്യം പോകുന്നത്. ഒരു adhesive brand, nobody wanted to take it up. He was a Hindi copywriter in a big ocean called Ogilvy, and he said, "Mujhe de do, I will write a line." So he used that opportunity, right? He saw potential and he used it, and look where it went. So that's the thing. When cherudo velado nalla, how do you use that opportunity to make it work?
Any other questions? Shall we look at the next set of films? Because the time
Time is
you've
up.
given-
Arengelum, please keep track.
Yeah. Can we look at the next?
कुछ खास है हम सभी में, कुछ बात है हम सभी में, बात है खास है, कुछ स्वाद है, क्या स्वाद है
कैडबरी स्टीयरिंग मिल्क, असली स्वाद जिंदगी का।
అమ్మమ్మ అడి అమ్మమ్మ ఆనందం ఇది ఎంతమ్మ వీడెందుం పుదువన్నం నాడెందుం ఇది మిన్నుం இன்னால் பொன்னால் என்று பொங்கலிடும் வண்ணம் பூமியில் வந்து தங்கிவிடும்.
இந்த பொங்கலுக்கு உங்கள் இல்லங்களை ஏசியன் பெயிண்ட்ஸால் வண்ணமயமாக்குங்கள்.
வண்ணமும் எண்ணமும் ஒன்றாய் கலந்தது, வாசல் இன்பங்கள் பூத்து குலுங்கின, சொந்தமும் பந்தமும் மகிழ்ந்தன, மகிழ்ந்தன. மண் பார்த்து பொங்கியதே பொங்கல், வண்ண நிறம் பார்த்து பொங்கியதே மனசு.
ஆண்டுதோறும் எங்களோடு கொண்டாடுங்கள் ஏசியன் பெயிண்ட்ஸ். हर घर चुपचाप से ये कहता है कि अंदर इसमें कौन रहता है। छत बताती है ये किसका आसमां है, रंग कहते हैं किसका ये जहां है, कमरों में किसकी कल्पना झलकती है, इस फर्श पर नंगे पैर किसके बच्चे चलते हैं, कौन चुन चुन के इसे प्यार से सजाता है, कौन इस मकान में अपना घर बसाता है। हर घर चुपचाप से ये कहता है कि अंदर इसमें कौन रहता है। एशियन पेंट्स, क्योंकि हर घर कुछ कहता है।
बड़ी लानत है, हमने से कुछ लोग अपने बच्चों को पोलियो की दवा से मिलाया। अब बताइए, पोलियो जाति या धर्म को पहचान कर तो बात करता नहीं, तो फिर क्यों अपने बच्चों के साथ खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं आप? देखिए, एक बात आप सब लोग कान खोलकर सुन लीजिए। 5 जनवरी और 9 फरवरी को एक भी ऐसा बच्चा ना हो जिसे पोलियो की दवा न पिलाई गई हो, क्योंकि अगर देश में एक भी पोलियो का नया केस नजर आया तो ये हम सबके लिए बड़े शर्म की बात होगी। चलिए ठान लें कि पोलियो का नाम निशान मिटा देंगे।
अपने 5 साल तक के बच्चों को 5 जनवरी के दिन पोलियो बूथ पर जरूर लाएं।
सर पूरा बॉक्स ले चलो?
हाँ नहीं नहीं सब नहीं, सिर्फ 2 दिन के लिए जा रहे हैं भाई।
तो कौन सी?
मैं देखता हूँ। ना ना ना
Titan, what's your style?
Imagine doing that today. The 5 spots.
2, 3, 4.
And the kind of criticism that would have arose. ഒരു പട്ടര മീൻ പിടിക്കൂ ആദ്യത്തെ joke. And then the next thing would be you're dipping. Won't people go and try to catch? Who will try to catch fish with Fevicol? There'll be all kinds of this.
This over logical thinking would have gone into it, and that would have killed the piece right then and there. Yeah, I think that's the thing. We don't take risks anymore. We don't have a sense of humor anymore. Everything is straight-jacketed thinking.
Absolutely.
And overthinking. Sorry to all the MBAs in the room, but I think that's what marketing has taught us. Everything has to be a framework and everything has to be a logical reasoning thing. So yeah, I mean it's...
And I think what I find there is this whole, the power to lead with your gut, to understand data and to put it aside and to say that I know the audience like the back of my hand, and I think this is what will work, right?
Yeah, very few leaders have that quality to be able to firstly sort of get into it and have a macro view of the issue and find a micro solution, or the other way around. Basically because, I don't know, I think everyone's trying to protect their jobs. Honestly, I think, you know, everyone has very hard lives. If you just look at all of us, we all feel like നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും ഭയങ്കര ക്ഷീണം എന്തുകൊണ്ടോ എല്ലാം ഒരു ഓടി ഓടി എങ്ങും എത്താത്തൊരവസ്ഥയാണ്. അത് എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഇതിനൊന്നും ഒരു ഫണ്ടില്ല. പിന്നെ എല്ലാം ചിന്തിച്ച് കൂട്ടി നമുക്ക് എല്ലാം അയാൾ എന്ത് പറയും, ഇയാൾ എന്ത് പറയും, മാങ്ങ തേങ്ങ ചേന. It's like it's really too much. I think somewhere we have to cut ourselves some slack and be easy, go easy on ourselves, have some fun, do things outside. Like he would encourage you to take a train ride, go for 48 hours somewhere, you know, do what you need to that will sort of allow you to speak to your soul. Ella ingane I don't know, am I making sense?
You are making sense.
Okay.
Any questions on this set of films?
Have I rubbed many people the wrong way this evening? Yeah. പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പോൾ at the end of 25 years of doing this, എനിക്കൊരു പേടിയില്ല.
Everyone talks that.
Yes.
25 years. No?
Yeah.
So Swarup said that, you know, narrating or telling stories to heart really work. Of course, it's the basics.
Yes.
But don't you see that the advertising is evolving? You know, that's so much of difference in acceptance level, taste level. Maybe in the earlier days to this day, I think so much of difference has come, especially in a fast-paced life. Gen Z, you are addressing Gen Z. So, don't you feel that any changes has happened?
Of course, of course. I'm not saying that everything that we create now is not nice. That's not the thing. I'm just saying that our approach to work is always out of fear. Because you know the thing is, I'll tell you, so we work with a lot of first generation entrepreneurs, and we also work with a lot of very large corporates. The guts that some of the entrepreneurs have, the large corporations don't have. They're very scared because they have their jobs to protect and they have many people to answer. So the kind of gutsy, let's take this risk, let's go with this, that is missing when you have this very large organization. So if you are an entrepreneur and I'm the, I'm at the bottom end of the food chain, I make your film, And if you and I are communicating and you trust me with something, with your brand and the communication for it, there's a good chance that you and I will create something very valuable. But between you and me, if there are 15 layers, what happens is this message gets diluted because every cog in the wheel has a point of view. Everyone wants to say, let's do it like this. Edit angana cheyi, music sheriyalla, adu ingana cheyi. Idu maati varumba avasanam idu engo alladavum. Right? So idana mikkarum nadakkunnu, because now the buck doesn't stop with you. You know, it's too many people in this game. Between us, there are 15 people. Avarde ellam point of view. Avasanam, when you look at the ad, you're saying, even the brand, is not this. This is not my voice. Or then you're saying, let's go with it. But there are many problems right now in the way that we've structured ourselves. We have created oru solution ipa simple alla. Ella nammal valaradhiyam complicate cheyidu kondirikkunna samayam. So angana nokkumbam the work is not joy. We may create things of value. I'm not saying we don't. Yes, and the younger generation is more. But look at who we are competing with. We are competing with cat videos and we are competing with very interesting content. So if advertising doesn't buck up and do a good job, we've really lost the plot. So we are, if you look around us, the kind of people, the influencer marketing and the kind of work people are putting out there is so fantastic, because their cameras are handy. At the drop of a hat, you're shooting something, or even if it's staged, it feels so natural that with advertising, if you don't do a good job, it will really feel very fake. Adonde we have to be very clear that nammal cheyna work has to be engaging, has to be entertaining, has to be smart, has to be with the times. Allengi idu cheyittu oru karyalla, karana aalkarkku samayilla. They don't want to engage with a brand that is selling themselves very hard. So, cheyyumbam, I think you have to find the best possible creative outcome that you can pull together, and for that you need the right people who you partner with. Yeah.
I think I also want to add one project that we did together.
Yeah.
The commercial for Kerala tourism.
Yes.
But the one thing that struck me is, it also depends, Joshi, on the kind of the ability of the client. The client is always gauging you. Right? How confident are you about the story that you're presenting? Now, if you have a plan B, which in advertising parlance is called option B, you're fucked. Because that means you're not sure of your first story. So there was only one story that was presented. It was and I still remember, the client listened to the whole thing. Varma was also there for that meeting. And he called me out of the room and he said, Swarup, I understand what you're saying, but I can't see the film. Exact words. And then he was looking into my eyes and he said, do you see the film? So I said, yes, I do. So can I trust you and sign on the dotted line? I said, yes. And that's exactly what he did. There was one caveat that I put forward, which even Varma and Sneha were a bit horrified at that. I said, you will see only the final film. We are not going to call you and say, this is the first cut, this is the second cut.
Yeah.
The final film, and that's it. Now, what I have learned from my limited experience is that it all depends on how much of confidence you have.
Yeah, in Piyush's words, front foot pe khilo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that changes things. And that is probably why in Piyush's case, a lot of clients followed him blindly. Pidlight, for instance.
Yeah. So I think trust, there is a big deficit of trust right now in our industry. Nobody trusts anybody. But every great piece of work that has come out of partnerships and trust. There's no other way. That's the only currency that works. So if you, I can't go to A.R. Rahman and tell him how to score his music. It's not my area of work, right? So we all play to our strengths and we all collaborate with the right people and hope that they will bring the right energy into a project. And for that, you need to know as a client, you need to know as an advertising person, as a creative person, whom to go to, and I said that before, who you include in your core group to be able to crack something. And your passion, I always say this to clients, as a client, your energy, your passion is what we are running a relay race. ആ തുടക്കം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് തന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഈ റേസ് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, നമുക്ക് വിജയിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. സോ യു ഹാവ് ടു ഹാവ് ദ റൈറ്റ് ഗൈ ഗിവ് യു ദ റൈറ്റ് എനർജി ഇൻ ദ ബിഗിനിങ്, and that is the booster dose that will keep you running for the rest of the journey, because the last guy standing is going to get be infused with that, and some clients do it beautifully, and I've seen this. They really are able to share their love for their brand, and you feel that you cannot let the guy down, because that's how much he loves what he does. And I've seen those kinds of clients as well, and then it's like you will go out on a limb to make sure that he gets a good film. And endu vannalum adana oru leader inde oru ability. Yeah.
In fact, I remember Varma showed this film that we did, Your Moment is Waiting film, to Piyush Pandey. And he said, I want to talk to this bugger. So he called me, and this is exactly what he said. He said, it's amazing that you managed to sell this to a client in Kerala, because it's truly an international film, and he loved the concept. So that's what I'm saying, Amala. And even small things, forget large clients and all that. Like you rightly said, at times you scoff at a small client, but that could be what makes the client as well as you in the long run.
So that it boils down to trust. Athrekim avaru trust either, if that process has to be enjoyable. So and that's what I'm saying, this job that we did for Winsmera was a real eye opener for us. So we took a chance. There's no way to know. It was a risky film to pull off. It could have totally backfired, but it only happened because of trust. Because somewhere down the line, they trusted Lalit and he trusted Varma. Varma said, let's push this, let's do it. And it was a conversation point, and this is something we did recently. So there is scope to do these things sitting right where we are. അത് അവിടെ ആരോ കളിക്കുന്ന ഗെയിം അല്ല, അത് നമുക്ക് തന്നെ ചെയ്യാവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ഇതൊക്കെ. ആ ഒരു ബിലീഫ് വേണം. ഗ്യാൻ മതിയായോ?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Krushi.
Malayalis are all over the industry in advertising, and some of the most talented people. Mahesh Matai, who made the Cadbury's ads, is a Malayali. Prakash Verma is a Malayali. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. And Nyangalam Palappuram, we think about this. Karanam, our feature films are fabulous. They have really knocked people out of the park. But not advertising. Adenduhundana choicha, I think, I don't know. Are we stuck in a time of? Are we afraid to try new things? Are we afraid to spend money? I don't know what it is. So when you build a brand, so it depends on what phase you are at, right? If you are a first-time player and you want your brand name established, you want clients to understand who you are, that you exist in the market. So you start at a different point. Over a period of time, you have, say, that one piece of brand communication which you will run through the year, and then you will have smaller things that you can, like targeted marketing, smaller films that will talk about a product benefit or a whatever. So there are different ways to do it. Clearly, brands like Pidilite are market leaders because of the advertising that they have done, because it helps reach into the hinterland of India, where these commercials speak very clearly to people there and to the target audience. So there is a very big job that is done by the marketing and communication piece that you put out as a brand, for sure. There's no question about it. But nothing works in silos, right? I mean, you have to have, it's a 360 thing. There are multiple cogs in the wheel that have to come together to be able to carry this forward. So what you do is one part of the program. Someone else is doing something else at the other end. So I think all of this has to come together. We have to think about how best to relay this communication. So I don't think that anything is Yeah, it depends on, I think the question, to answer your question, it depends on at what point in the game are you, and therefore what do you want to push out. I think right now, so we did this Bajaj Chetak film. So, there's flavor of the season. So at one point it used to be FMCG ads, and it became the coal was EdTech films. Now the EVs are advertising in a big way, whether it's bikes or cars, or because they want that first advantage, first mover advantage, where they're able to establish their brand and come into the market and create a relationship with their consumers before the other brands launch. So they are aggressively now putting their work out there. But that said, there will be one masterpiece of communication, and there will be either cut downs from that or specific ads for the smaller features, which then you can directly market to the end consumer. So there are multiple ways to do this, and no one is a fool to spend this kind of money if they knew that this was not creating impact. In today's world, that said, there does seem like there is some confusion, because you don't know if your end consumer is loyal to you or not, because the plethora of options available are so many that you have to find a way to engage, entertain, and for them to fall in love with you, which is what a brand like Cadbury does. Cadbury is a prime example of that. Loyalty is coming down. But that's why the need of the hour is to find the pulse, which is why right now this is so relevant, because if we don't go back to powerful storytelling and great narratives, we will get lost in this ocean. So coming back to human life, adonnu orikkalum will never go out of fashion. In the AI vannalum, you will always look for a story that you can relate to. That is who we are. നമ്മൾ കരയും, നമ്മൾ ചിരിക്കും, നമ്മൾ പ്രേമിക്കും. That's who we are. അതില്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്താ അർത്ഥം? So emotional. ഇപ്പോൾ AI ചില ഫിലിംസ് കണ്ടാൽ they are made well, ഭയങ്കര സ്ലിക്ക് ആയിരിക്കും, പക്ഷെ അതിലൊരു സ്റ്റോറി ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ they lost you right in the first few seconds. അതേ സമയത്ത് ഒരു OTT പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമിൽ ഇരുന്ന് ബിഞ്ച് വാച്ച് ചെയ്ത് 8 സീരിയൽ ഒരുമിച്ച് ഇരുന്ന് കാണും. എന്തുകൊണ്ട്? They are able to tell that story very well. So the power of ideas, the power of well-told stories will never go. Yeah.
Absolutely. Koshi, if I may just add to that, Sneha, you were talking about why such films are not coming out of Kerala. I think it's also because ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞൊരു കാര്യമാണ്, which is everyone is thinking in a very left-brained manner. Because if you look at retail, most of them have in-house agencies, right? And you know the kind of talent they hire. So and a lot of them are family-run businesses where you have a conflict internally also, because the patriarch says this is how things should work. The guy who has done his MBA and come and wants to change the world is asked to pipe down, and so there are all kinds of conflicts happening. So, but I think across time there will be a change, is what I feel, and looking at the kind of people who are coming in. But it's also going to be...
Another thing that I want to say, sorry to interrupt, is that we forget to celebrate each other's work. ഭയങ്കര കോമ്പറ്റീവ് സ്പിരിറ്റ് ആണ്. നമ്മൾ ക്യാൻസിലൊക്കെ പോയാൽ, ഇപ്പോൾ if you look at Brazil as a country, or if you look at all of South America, they are cheering their own work from their own country. It doesn't matter if Ogilvy did it or Stark did it, doesn't matter. They are, as a country, they are projecting themselves. നമുക്ക് ആ ഒരു ക്വാളിറ്റി ഇല്ല. നമ്മളെല്ലാം അവൻ so that is a problem that we have. നമ്മൾ ഒരുമിച്ച് നിന്ന് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we are capable of some amazing stuff, but അത് നമുക്ക് സെലിബ്രേറ്റ് ഇല്ലെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു, അല്ലേ? അതൊരു പ്രോബ്ലമാണ്. ഇതൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് സുഖമായിട്ട് തിരുത്താവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. ആക്ച്വലി ഹോപ്പ്ഫുള്ളി ദ യങ്ങർ ലോട്ട് ഹിയർ, you can try and make some change. I hope that you are not bogged down by the pressures of, I keep saying, everyone looks very jaded. ഒരു കല്യാണം കഴിച്ച് കുട്ടികളെ ആവുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും പിന്നെ വീട് വേണം, അത് വേണം, വണ്ടി വേണം. At least the young people should go out and not get into ഈ ഭാരങ്ങളൊന്നും ചുമക്കാതെ. Sorry, I'm advocating all the wrong things.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
അടിസ്ഥാനപരമായി പാർട്ടിക്ക് നമ്മുടെ കല്യാണം എന്നൊരു സങ്കല്പം ഇഷ്ടമല്ല എന്ന് സിനിമയിൽ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെയാണ്.
വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യങ്ങളുണ്ടോ? I hope you guys are enjoying this session. എന്തെങ്കിലും ഓക്കെ. ട്രിവാൻഡ്രത്ത് ഇങ്ങനത്തെ കുറെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നടക്കാറുണ്ടോ അതോ ഉണ്ടോ? യു ഡു സ്റ്റഫ്. ഓക്കെ. ബാംഗ്ലൂരിൽ രക്ഷയില്ല, കാരണം അവിടെ ട്രാഫിക് കാരണം ആർക്കും മീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. സോ ദിസ് ഇസ് സോ നൈസ്. ഐ റിയലി ലൈക്ക് ദ സിറ്റി. ഐ കെയിം ഹിയർ ടുഡേ. എനിക്ക് വലിയ പിടിയില്ലാത്തൊരു സിറ്റിയാണ്, പക്ഷെ I went out in the afternoon and I was telling Swarup, ഒരു ട്രാഫിക്കും ഇല്ല, മനുഷ്യരും ഇല്ല റോഡിൽ. Why is it like this? But it's so beautiful and it's so clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I may just complete what I was
Yes.
telling Koshi.
Sorry.
ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്, ഞാൻ ലുലു മോളിൽ കയറി ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ VIP-യുടെ കട വരുമ്പോൾ I am reminded of Kal Bhi Aaj Bhi. See, so that the power of building a brand across time, it stays with you. ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ, ഒരുപാട് ബ്രാൻഡ്സിനോട് നമുക്കൊരു അടുപ്പം തോന്നുന്നത് is because of the fact that a particular kind of brand building has been done across time. What you said is very true. Today the whole scenario has changed. You need to do it differently. Earlier it was very simple. You just had television and that was it. Today it's a very different thing. So I think the important thing is to build a brand, because ബാക്കിയുള്ളതെല്ലാം tactical ആയിട്ട് വരും പോകും. People might vanish, will come and they will vanish overnight.
But look at the, I mean, I think I was having this discussion with someone. Look at the transformation a brand like Manorama has had over the years, right? You're everywhere, whether it's digital, whether it's the newspaper, whether any form, you've samay illanyatalla. Normally, that is an excuse we use. Because formats have changed. Yeah, so you have to be able to communicate at whatever duration. But if it's interesting communication, they are willing to sit with you and watch. Correct. But IPL noku. IPL, it is horrible, the advertising that we watch on IPL. You don't feel like watching those ads at all. And we know that the mandate is you have to do only 15 or 20 seconds. But we are not able to communicate interestingly on any IPL match. It's really sad, because why are we not being able to do that as brands? And they spend a lot of money. So, time for a wake-up call.
എനിക്കൊന്ന് മിക്കവാറും നമ്മൾ അടിച്ചു പോയി.
എനിക്ക് അടുത്ത ജാനുവരി കഴിഞ്ഞ് 25 years തീർന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞങ്ങളെ പുറത്താക്കിയാലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല. എന്തായാലും ഒരാൾ ആക്ടറായി, ഇപ്പം മക്കള് പഠിച്ച് കോളേജിൽ പോയി, അപ്പോൾ ഒരു പ്രശ്നമില്ല. ഇപ്പം എന്ത് വേണമെങ്കിലും തുറന്ന് പറയാം. Thank you. Thank you. Oh wow, this is very cool.
Thank you.